Miss Rachel has been in the news lately. We did a segment on Miss Rachel a few weeks ago when Stop Anti-Semitism tried to get her investigated for her posts that sympathize with the children of Gaza. I won't even call them pro-Palestine posts because she doesn't engage in the
Right.
politics of the
No.
conflict at all. She engages it on the level you would expect a children's YouTuber to, with sympathy for children. So here's a really disgraceful article by the New York Times. They should be ashamed to have printed this article. Why tot celebrity Ms. Rachel waded into the Gaza debate. She does not wade into the debate. She does not litigate one state solution, two state solution, arms embargo, this, that. She expresses human sympathy for children in hell. That is what she does. Facing criticism, Rachel Accurso, her last name, defends making the plight of children in Gaza a primary focus on her social media feeds. Ms. Rachel, whose real name is Rachel Griffin Accurso, at times presents a different side of herself on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where the content is geared less toward toddlers and more toward their parents. There, her millions of followers will also find impassioned videos touching on current events. These focus on the push for universal childcare and geopolitical crises that have led to suffering children, above all, the ongoing war in Gaza. On Monday, Accurso posted to her Instagram account photos of a meeting she said she had last week with Rahaf, a 3-year-old girl from Gaza who lost her legs in an airstrike, and the child's mother. The meeting was arranged through the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. So here is the photo that she posted with the girl whose legs are amputated. That's the photo that they just referred to there. Rahaf's mother and I both love our children with all of our hearts, Accurso wrote, adding, my son will have dinner tonight, a story and snuggle with me, school in the morning, and hers won't, referring to Rahaf's brother in Gaza. The post was followed by an interview on news site Zeteo, combining to make this Accurso's most outspoken few days to date on this subject. Now, this is kind of a trailer that Mehdi Hassan, I guess, cut together. We can't show you this because the music in this is a copyright flag. I tried it. But the quote from this is, I think it should be controversial to not say anything about Gaza. I spoke to YouTube star and children's educator Ms. Rachel about her outspoken support for Palestinian kids and the bad faith attacks on her in response. So this is a portion with no superimposed music, so we can play this for you. It just doesn't make sense because as grown-ups, we know what children need. So here she is.
Moment in those few months after October 7th when our feeds were just crazy. I'm just wondering,
they were.
as someone who's just an ordinary American, not Miss Rachel, the YouTube creator, was there something that just stopped you in your tracks?
There are multiple that I can't forget. There was a little boy who was really shocked and he was shaking, and his eyes were just, there was so much terror in his eyes, and a healthcare worker was being so compassionate, and you see that compassion, and he finally was able to cry because he was just so shocked he couldn't even cry. And then Hindra Job's voice on the phone.
Yes.
I'll never forget. And I know some people can't even listen because it's so hard, and I think that's...
Henry Job was the girl who was shot, I forget the amount of times, but just unspeakable amount of times in a car.
You know, that's so understandable, but as just... her voice, and a little boy who was staring at the wall who had lost his whole family and just was staring. And then there was a little, oh my gosh, sorry, a child in like a rainbow onesie. And my daughter has a rainbow onesie, and I had to give it away because, you know, you just see that and it just doesn't make any sense, because as grown-ups, we know what children need and what they deserve and what will help them grow into happy, healthy adults. And it will benefit us all. It's right to speak out because this is wrong, but it's also right to speak out because it's going to benefit everyone.
Yep. No lies detected there. It's so clear how we should treat children to help them thrive and grow into happy, healthy adults, Accurso said, responding to questions over email. We need to stop failing them, she said, adding that in particular, no children should have their crucial brain development ages of 0 to 3 interrupted by trauma. So I guess they reached out to her and she responded to their questions via email. And this is where this gets to a point where, like I said, the New York Times should really think about what they did here and even asking her a lot of these questions. But Accurso's advocacy on behalf of Gaza children has led some supporters of Israel to accuse her of treating Palestinian children with more sympathy than Israeli ones, including those abducted in Hamas's attack of October 7th. Last month, the advocacy group Stop Anti-Semitism labeled Accurso the anti-Semite of the week. The anti-Semite of the week. By the way, she has on repeat occasion. We did a whole segment about this.
I just can't even.
On repeat occasion, we've showed you in the previous segment that we did on this. I'll link to it when we post this video. All of the instances where she has actually expressed sympathy for Israeli children. Sorry. So yeah, that was their example of anti-Semitism. And the New York Post reported sent a letter urging Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate whether Accurso is receiving funding to further Hamas's agenda. Wow. Last month, the advocacy group Stop Anti-Semitism labeled her the anti-Semite of the week and urged Pam Bondi to investigate her. Accurso posted nearly 50 times about the children of Gaza, most of which is filled with misinformation from Hamas, and only 5 times about Israeli children. The group, which monitors statements about Israel on social media accounts of prominent figures, said on its website. In the case of the Israeli children, she only posted due to widespread public backlash, never condemning Hamas and the Palestinians. So they want her to condemn the Palestinians as well. Accurso, 42, in an emailed response, denied having received money from Hamas. This accusation is not only absurd, it's patently false, she said. Now, if you're the New York Times, why would you even ask her? She's not a political person, obviously. She runs a children's YouTube social. She's probably not as hip to what the media is going to try to do to her. You remember we did a story a while back where it was one of these type of outlets. I don't want to name it because I don't want to get it wrong. But they were doing some smear piece on, I think it was Tucker Carlson, and they asked him for comment. And he writes them back, basically, go fuck yourself. No, you're asking me to help write a smear piece about me. No, I'm not.
That was
giving
in
you
Australia.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not giving you I'm not going to give you the material that you need to write this smear piece on me. Like, the fact, it's such an undignified thing to even ask her. Like, you're the New York Times. You know, if there's absolutely zero evidence to back that claim, you don't even bother asking her. You just write, that's a ridiculous claim for which there is no evidence. The way they kind of massage the sort of both sidesism into this article is really pretty awful. She did not dispute that she has posted more frequently about Gazan children. The painful reality, she said, is that Palestinian children in Gaza have been killed by the thousands and continue to be killed, maimed, and starved right now. The idea that caring about one group of children prevents us from caring about another group of children is false. Yes, when the Bibas kids were killed, she posted that was horrible, as any decent human would think that the killing of a child is something to be mourned. What she points out here is, of course, when it happens thousands of times more to one side, yes, they're going to get more sympathy because it happens more often. Unfortunately, you get the opportunity to express sympathy with those losses much more because the death count is so lopsided on one side. So once again, the fact that they're coming after this woman is just so disgraceful. And you saw her in that video. I mean, she's just such a sweet person with basic decency who now has to get dragged into this. And if you're the New York Times, why aren't you reaching out to Stop Anti-Semitism? Why aren't you doing an expose on them for baselessly calling for the government to investigate a children's YouTuber for expressing sympathy for the children of a genocide? You want to call it a conflict for your purposes? Whatever. The point is, she's there to express sympathy for innocent children who are killed. She is not even wading into the debate. Have you heard what she thinks should be the solution to settle the conflict. You hear her talk about a
Right.
two-state solution, 1967 border. She doesn't touch that. She doesn't touch that. She engages with this the way you would expect someone like her, given her field, to engage this. And they go after her like that. And the New York Times doesn't even have the integrity to take a side on this issue. This should have been an expose on the smear campaign against her. They shouldn't be emailing her, "Hey, they say you get funding to spread Hamas propaganda. What do you have to say about that?" See, if she were more versed in this space, she would have sent them a text the way Tucker did, which is, "No, fuck you.
Yeah.
Not doing it." I think Jimmy was approached by one of these rags to
Yeah.
smear
Yeah.
him, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wrote back the same thing. "No, I'm not going to help
Yeah.
you smear me. Thanks very much. Good luck with your article." That's what you should have said to them. Instead, she engaged them probably because she's too innocent to really know the machinations of this world. I don't think she expected them to treat those accusations with any validity at all, since they're clearly just absolutely fucking absurd.
Yeah, she's clearly, excuse me, she's clearly just a very kind person, kind of, perfectly suited to what she does, obviously very empathetic,
Right.
very, connected to her emotions. And I'm sure that reads to children. That's why she's been so wildly successful in that space, because that authenticity, that warmth comes across as soon as you see her. And children respond very strongly to, I find, to people who have that kind of a presence. Yeah, the New York Times would never write that article. I mean, really, there should be an investigative piece on groups like Batar, on, on groups like
Right.
Stop Anti-Semitism,
Exactly.
that are clearly functioning within our body politic to suppress open debate and open speech. And you want to talk about getting foreign funding? What, these groups aren't getting foreign funding? Why don't you
Yeah.
ask them about where their funding comes from? The New York Times, it would never occur to them to ask these kinds of questions. As soon as Israel went after her, though, if there's a hopeful element in this story, they're losing the plot. Like, that's what it tells you. They're getting desperate. And you have to remember, they are so ensconced in their vision of the world, in which Jews are just these horribly victimized people in all circumstances, can never be the victimizers, that any word against the state of Israel, which they have improperly conflated with Judaism, stolen the identity of Judaism and made it synonymous with Israel. Any criticism of anything that Israel does is equivalent to Nazism, is adjacent to Nazism. They are so far into that that they can't see how much they are damaging their cause, their public relations, even amongst people who would have been sympathetic. I can tell you, over the course of my lifetime, nobody really spoke against Israel at one time. It was just a given. Just a given.
Right.
Yeah, Holocaust, that's it. Nobody would question Israel. Now, I mean, and particularly given their wonderful, outstanding Hasbara over the last couple of years, which is almost entirely backfired, I think. At this point, most people have a negative view of Israel. What one night, maybe for a movie night, because it's on YouTube, you want to give people some hope. I want to show the 1978 uh, anniversary special that Barbara Streisand did, honoring Israel. And I want you to imagine them putting that on a network today. It
Hmm.
would be impossible. It would be impossible. So there has been a shift. The truth is coming out, and they're not helping themselves by going after sweet YouTube children's creators.
No, no. But the reason they do is because, and I mentioned this the first time we covered this, the apolitical Instagram mom is a pretty broad demographic. There are a lot of
Right,
people who
right,
fit
right,
that description
right.
who don't have the time or the bandwidth available to them because they're moms. And,
Yep.
I live with a mom. It's hard being a mom. It takes a lot of time to be a mom. You don't get as versed in these things as you might, if you had more time in your hands. They see that coming across their feed. That educates them on this topic in a way that they might not otherwise be
Yep.
educated because
Yep.
they don't have the time or the bandwidth to pursue that kind of insight. And that's what makes her a threat to them. Because yes, we all know, okay, yes, the campus radicals are going to be pro-Palestine and they hate that, and so they go after them. But Miss Rachel taps into a whole nother demographic who might
Right.
not otherwise dislike Israel. And now you say, hey, you know what? Whatever your politics are, I don't care with Democrat, Republican, whoever, as a mother, as someone with children, when you see this happening to children, aren't you furious at those doing this to them? That's that's as basic as it gets. And she's got huge reach, and it's a real threat, which is why they're going after her. But yeah, ultimately, the effect of this is a backfire. Of course, you look ridiculous coming after this woman with a pink T-shirt and overalls playing ukulele for 3-year-olds.
Well, there's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be so buried in your own you have to be a victim of your own propaganda to the point that you can't rationally evaluate pros and cons. There is absolutely no upside to going after this woman, which any rational actor would realize before doing it.
Exactly.
Please clap.